it was kind of like a gut punch at first. I was kind of like, I was kind of pissed for like 15 minutes. I was like, oh God, like this sucks. But then, I don't know, like we're constantly working, constantly doing new stuff. So that subsided real quick.
What's up, everyone? Tania here with PopCulture.com, and today we're welcoming paranormal investigators and former ghost hunter stars Mustafa Gatollari and Brandon Alvis, who are also now authors of the forthcoming book, Elements of a Haunting. Mustafa, Brandon, thanks so much for joining us today, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're
So,
awesome.
before we get into it, just a little wellness check. It's been a while since we last spoke. How have you both been?
Great, doing well, staying busy, and enjoying time with the family for sure.
Yeah. I almost feel a little bit guilty when everyone's like asking me like, hey, how were you during the pandemic? I was like, I don't want to say it because like people give you the evil eye, you know what I mean? But it's like I kind of like Brandon, I kind of like thrived. I mean, it was tough, but like we had a lot of great stuff going on. So I guess I kind of feel guilty, but not really. So things been going good.
And we're going back to normalcy, so it's kind of like nice to have that, that we came out of this weird, timeline, and then now we're going into like normal times, which is great. There was a report last May from the CBC that actually cited paranormal occurrences were on the rise during quarantine, and I'm wondering if you got questions from fans and like, what do you make of that when people like come up and tell you, and especially reports coming out like that?
Oh yeah, what's interesting about that is people were at home a lot more than they were before. So I think they started to notice things that they didn't before. They would be at work, out living their lives, but they've been home for a year. And I think, things started to become a bit more clear at that moment.
Yeah, I think whatever ghosts were there were kind of pissed off because they're like, oh, aren't you supposed to be out of the house at this time? And they were getting really upset. Yeah. So they're like, hey, come on, get out of here, clear out. But yeah, no, I was definitely getting a lot of DMs, messages from people saying like, hey, it's like, I've been getting like, I've been noticing all this stuff and that stuff. And it's just like Brandon said, like, you're at home more. So you're going to start to notice it.
Yeah, I think it's like the opposite of the dogs. Like everybody was like, the dogs were so happy to have their owners home. And now when people are starting to go back to work, they're like at the door pining for them to come back. So I think it's so funny how like the ghosts are like, just get out. And then like the animals are like, I don't know.
That's my theory and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. So before I talk about your book and the new series coming up, I know you two also want to address the Ghost Hunter series getting revived and moving from A&E to Discovery Plus, and because fans have so many questions, I know myself included. So Mustafa, let's start with you. Anything you would like to address right now?
No, I mean, I think it's just, Brandon and I talked about it recently, a few months back too. It's just like when you're kind of, kept in the dark about things and you're not hearing things. And then you saw like how A&D was shifting as a network. There was invariably going to be some changes with that. So I think the second they had like Pilgrim with our contract, I don't know what anybody else was like, but I know with mine, it was like, okay, you had a certain number of months before they could lock you in to renew you for another season. Once that expired, I was like, all right, like I'm not gonna stay stagnant. And I think Brandon was of the same mind, and that's why we kind of gel so well together, is that let's just immediately start doing other work. We were working on the book, so we got the book and we had all of these ideas while we were creating the book and writing it, and all it was like this idea, that idea, and then we must have written like, God, how many different pitch decks and like different stuff, like dozens, man. Like we had so many different ideas. So then we just started developing that. So then when the news came that you had some of the former investigators from the show, and it was going to be on Discovery Plus and all that, it was kind of like a gut punch at first. I was kind of like, I was kind of pissed for like 15 minutes. I was like, oh God, like this sucks. But then I don't know, like we're constantly working, constantly doing new stuff. So that subsided real quick. And you never know what happens with ghost hunters. It was awesome to be a part of the show, especially on the A&E. They were the two biggest seasons the show's ever had. And we had a lot of great cases and we broke new ground. So I'm really proud of the work that we did there. And that's the springboard for other things. And, hey, never say never. I don't know, maybe down the line, there'll be an opportunity to work with ghost hunters again, or, some of the great crew members and the producers on that show. Loved working with them. So, yeah, it's just, that's how the nature of the business goes. So we're going to go on and keep continuing to do our thing. And I'm sure our paths will converge in one way or another. It's a small, tight knit community, paranormal TV.
Brandon, what about you?
I have to, piggyback after Mustafa here and just say, it was a great experience working with Ghost Hunters, working with Mike Nichols, amazing guy. I mean, one of the best producers I've ever worked with, ever. Fantastic. So being part of Ghost Hunters is something that vaulted us to where we are now. And I'm just very thankful to have been on the show, worked with great people, and to now do better things, on to bigger and better things, and, pick up where we left off with Ghost Hunters and go out and do some new experiments, new ideas, and new investigations. So we're excited.
You guys are now going to be like forever lamented and like the, cemented in the vernacular of like Ghost Hunters history and legacy. So, people are going to be watching the show. They get to still watch it online. There are some places to watch it. So I'm wondering, like, what's that going to mean for you? Maybe like, 5 years from now, people come up to you and they're like, hey, I loved your episodes, or, hey, I loved how you guys investigate. Because there was always like a difference in like the way it was, from the original, but then there was always, you guys kind of enhanced it and you elevated it to another level. So what's that going to mean to you?
It'd mean a lot, because we did some very new things, very new things with the EMCC camera, figuring out these photon events with pressure changes, all these really specific scientific ideas that we had, and to actually go out there and execute that on the platform with A&E and Ghost Hunters was amazing. So I hope people appreciate it, because we put a lot of work into it, but we'll definitely continue to do that going forward.
Yeah. And, so let's talk about the new stuff, because I'm so excited for you, both of you. You have a book coming out, which is so exciting. And then you had a web series that was a companion sort of to the book. And now you have a TV show that has been green lighted. So first of all, congratulations on that. And so what is like, tell us everything, like, what have you guys been up to? The series, like, what can you share about the series without spoiling it?
What we can say about the series is that we're going to be investigating a place that is not in the continental United States.
Okay.
It's going to be hot, and it's also going to be a place that has very, very, very significant implications for the creation of America. It's got a lot of ties to American history, and it's never been investigated on this grand of a scale before. We have unprecedented access to it. We already have people on the ground there like working, and we've dumped a ton of research into this already. We're constantly working on it. I was actually just talking with production today. So yeah, it's incredible, the stuff that we're doing with this series.
And what's so cool about it is that, we're kind of actually stepping out of our comfort zone with this one. We've investigated in 49 different states in the country. We've been to every type of location you can imagine, from prisons to mental hospitals to Victorian mansions. But we're going bigger with this one, in the sense of we're just not going to a location to have an experience or try to document it. We're really going into that cultural belief aspect and what creates a haunting. What's the cultural ideas behind it? Does it change location to location? So we're really kind of stepping out of our comfort zone and really going into the deep cultural belief behind paranormal phenomena. And I think that's going to be something that's not only refreshing, but something that's really never been done on this scale. So I think it's going to be something that's going to be fresh and new. So we're definitely excited.
So you guys have the web series, which is Formula of a Haunting, and then the show is called Elements of a Haunting, right? So I'm wondering, like, you guys are not doing the web series anymore, or are you still doing that while this is in production, or is like what's going to happen to that one? Because I mean, no, people were still watching that as well.
Yeah. With the web series, we started getting into production, getting under contract with the show. Don't know if the show is going to be called Elements of a Haunting, but very much everything that we did in our book, Elements of a Haunting, the show is going to be based off of that. So we're going to still be doing the web series. We have episodes like on the backlog, but all of our time is on this show now that we're developing. So we're like, okay, let's just like kind of make sure we're okay to put out stuff here before we put out anything else. Plus, Brandon, he's done a lot of work with the Dark Zone, so we have a lot of different fires kind of being stoked right now. So it's like, okay, we got to figure out the legalities of everything before we start putting up that content.
So the book, when can we expect it? Because I know that a lot of fans they want to get their hands on it. They know that you guys have always investigated with integrity and just like heart and, just a nice humanity, that compassion and stuff. So I'm wondering, like, when can we expect the book and when can I have it? When can I get a copy? Do we know?
Well, yeah. Are we allowed to say? We can say, right? We can say
Are you
when it's
allowed
coming
to?
out, right, Brandon? Are
I
we?
guess
I'm
so,
pretty
right? We are doing Llewellyn Con, so, and I guess we'll be announcing that soon. So why not?
Yeah. January of 2022. It's gonna be
Okay.
coming out. Yeah, so
That's
it'll be
very cool.
early next year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when we're gonna be doing it.
Is the
I
book
wasn't
done?
sure.
Yeah. Is the book done, or are you guys still working on it? Is it still in like?
This is like, yeah, we wrote and rewrote and rewrote and
Yeah.
rewrote, and then we were like contacting people in different counties for like
Uh-huh.
permissions for things and all that. So it was I think this is probably one of like the biggest things that I've ever worked on. I don't know about you, Brandon, in terms of just
Yeah,
like writing or
absolutely.
anything.
Not only the biggest thing, but the most difficult. I mean, it's very difficult to write a book like that. I mean, working in television and stuff like we do is one thing. I never imagined the amount of work that would go into writing a book like this. And it's been something that's challenging, but something that was really cool to do, especially during the pandemic. We had the free time, which is nice,
Yeah.
but it was definitely a very difficult thing to do. And we put a lot of love into it and a lot of hard work. And I think people are really going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And the thing about this book, it's so like there's not a lot of paranormal books. And when they are, they're kind of just like people base them based on things that they've done. You guys have been doing that too, but this is like elevating it to another level. So I'm wondering, like, where was the inspiration for the book that you guys just decided? Was it just from the TV show and investigating, or was it a whole bunch of things in your entire life that you decided to come up with a book?
Well, yeah, no, it goes back to 17 years worth of research, really, and Mustafa and I, when we met on Ghost Hunters, we just talked about all these different theories and ideas that we had, and we have very similar thinking and mindset. And we decided, hey, man, let's take all of our research for 17 years and really put it together. And what's really cool about the book is that it lays out something that's never really been done before, and that's actually a classification system for hauntings, where you're not just going to a location saying, is it haunted or not? We're actually putting a classification system to that. And that really comes from Dr. Harry Clore, who I've worked with for many years, who said, if we want to be taken seriously in this genre and with this type of research, we have to start to classify phenomena. And that's really what we're doing with this book. And it's exciting.
That's so great. This is such an exciting book already. I already know, like, I'm going to be like reading it the entire time and like just like bookmarking and like marking things in there. So, I know that people are going to look to you guys for advice and, how to do their own hauntings and like it's not their hauntings, their own investigations. But like, I'm wondering like, how, like, what advice can you give anyone who wants to get into the field, who wants to, investigate maybe their own home, or well, maybe home is not actually a good idea. I remember Brandon told me once in an interview, do not investigate your own home. So that's not a good idea. But if you have any,
Don't open that door.
if you have any advice for those who want to investigate and be paranormal investigators like you guys.
I think for me, the biggest thing, and I think a lot of people kind of use this as a given or they take it for granted, and it goes back to like what we're trying to accomplish with this new series. Not to like shamelessly plug it again, but I will. I'm shameless. But it's that internal challenge that you have for yourself. What are you going after? What is that belief that you're going after? What are you trying to accomplish? And can you attack that elephant in the room or whatever it is honestly? This is for us to go to where we're going and to just to win over the trust of the people that we want to do honest, great investigative work for. That's going to be a personal challenge. So I think in a lot of these investigations, if you go on investigations, people always walk in, it's like, who killed the person with the candelabra? It's like everybody's playing a game of like Paranormal Clue, or like they'll hear second, third, 50-hand stories about like, an SLS figure on a balcony. It's like, oh my God, a little girl jumped off and like, ooh, her name's Mary. And that came up on an Ovilus. So now you're looking for this little girl, Mary, who committed suicide. Where are you getting that? And everyone's starting from that point. Nobody's going through those paces. So I would say if you're doing a paranormal investigation, try to come at it from a place of honesty first. maybe you don't care that much about finding out who's there or not. Okay, we'll work with that. And you work off that base and you go through those emotional paces, then you're going to be in a good place because you're talking with people at the end of the day. And if you're not using honesty in whatever capacity that is with another human being, no one's going to want to talk to you.
Right.
It's true. I would have to say, read as much literature as you possibly can on the subject, for everything from psychic investigation to scientific. Figure out what your reason is to be in the field and why you're doing it. What's your protocol? What's your methodology? What are you trying to achieve? First and foremost, really figure out what you want to do before stepping foot into the field, because it could be dangerous at times if you just throw yourself out there and go to these, notoriously haunted locations or places that have been investigated for years. So really figure out your mindset, read as much as you can about the subject, and figure out what you want to do.
Also jumping back just to the show for a second, because I know that you guys have been working so hard, and I'm just so proud of both of you for like everything you've been doing since Ghost Hunters to now. And, with the show now coming out, are we going to see any of, the A&E Ghost Hunters, investigators? Because I know a lot of fans still miss Brian, Rochelle, Kristen, Daryl, and Grant. Like, are we going to see them appear on the show, or is that like you guys are going to keep that top secret right now? Because teasing us with anything.
For this series that we're doing, it's going to be Brandon and I, and we're going to be heading the investigations there for this one. But I know that everyone's kind of got their own things going on. I know Daryl's got some big news with Paranormal Warehouse. I think Brian and Rochelle are actually at Waverly Hills this week, and they're still doing things. And Kristen, you did an event with her, Brandon, at the Dark Zone. So I haven't really spoken with Grant too much recently, but he's always working, and he's always got his finger on the pulse, so to speak. So I think everyone's kind of just doing their things, and I'm sure at some point or another, when it's the least convenient and least expected, an offer for all of us to kind of be together again will present itself.
Mm-hmm. And before I do let you guys go, I want to ask something, because with all the research conducted, and when it comes down to your own beliefs and all the investigations, do you ever see yourself more of a skeptic or a believer, or do you have to balance the two when you're investigating?
Definitely have to balance it. It's remaining unbiased is key in any investigation. Just to go in there with an open mind, collect data. But I would always call myself a natural skeptic. I'm always looking for the logical explanation first and foremost. And if we can't find one, then we're starting to look into the paranormal side of things. So definitely a natural skeptic, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mustafa?
Same. Yeah, pretty much exactly the same. I think we both manifest our excitement at the possibility of something being paranormal in different ways, but I'd rather I'll be like, oh my God, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it's just this cat, or like, and then the one time it is, then you're very, very, very excited about the prospect of it being paranormal. But definitely approach everything as a skeptic, and we've tossed tons of potential evidence out, stuff that would make entire seasons of some other shows and stuff. We've thrown them in the trash. So definitely a skeptic.
So, here's a question. I don't know if you guys get this a lot, but, horror movies about ghosts, what are your thoughts on them? Like, some of them are not that great. Some of them are quite good. Like, I love the Conjuring series. I'm excited for the third one coming out. But what are your thoughts on the horror movies and the ghost genre, the paranormal genre, when it's put on film?
I think that it really influences a lot of what people do in the field, unfortunately. I think that people want to live that horror movie in some way. And that's why you see a lot of some of these, kind of unethical investigations and investigators out there, because they're kind of trying to mimic what they see in the film aspect of the ghost genre. So I think it could be kind of hurtful to the field at times, because people want to mimic that. So,
Mustafa, do you have any favorite movies, or do you guys even have any favorite movies of I'm sure growing up you must have seen something and you thought it was great.
Are you kidding me? I just shared an Imgur repository of all these intros of horror TV shows and stuff with Brandon. Are you kidding? I'm at Frighteners. I watched the Frighteners VHS from Blockbuster. I think I'm not even kidding. I had it for 5 days. I must have watched it 40 times. I love that movie. It was so good. I just kept on.
I'd have to say, for me, probably The Changeling with George C. Scott is an amazing ghost film. Really cool haunted house story, great storyline. Also, Session 9, that's another really good one too. So
Yeah. I think growing up, it was always like, I loved The Exorcist so much. And I knew not to play with a Ouija board because like a friend of mine did. And then she kept seeing this guy in the house and her mom was like, just stop it. You're just making this up. But she kept telling me that there's this guy in the house wearing a hat. And he was like always just sitting on the couch and just, we were like 8 years old at the time. So it was pretty creepy. But I mean, like, I was like, never play with a Ouija board because I don't want to bring people into the house. So I knew.
exactly.
But yeah, I just feel like there's so many movies, and so I'm wondering if there was anything that you guys were looking forward to seeing, especially like with movies coming out this summer, and now that we're going back to the movies and stuff. Anything that you guys want to look out for?
I remember, I think the last movie, when I saw The Lighthouse, like we were talking about that, like that was really cool. Brandon sent my way, sent me the trailer. I was like, whoa. And then I ended up watching it one night while zooted out of my mind, and it was kind of cool. But I also, I think, I don't know, there's not really, it's not really a lot of, sad to say, there's not really a lot of like movies I'm really that like excited about seeing. Like, I don't know, man. Like
we're in a weird limbo, I think, of like time with movies and stuff. But we have TV shows, and we have yours coming up, and we have the book coming up in January. So I'm so excited for both of you. It's always a pleasure talking to you two. So for more on Brandon, Mustafa, Ghost Hunters, and all your spooky paranormal entertainment news, keep it locked to popculture.com.